Sky Films, and we have a podcast. We talk about stuff that matters.
Welcome to the Gray Sky Films podcast, where we break down what actually goes into creating strong, effective video content. A lot of brands approach production the same way. They have a need, they find a vendor, they hand over a creative brief and expect it to be executed. Sometimes that works, but sometimes it doesn't. We believe the best work comes from expanding beyond just being a vendor and creating partnerships with our clients. So today we're talking about how to ensure that happens.
And what better person to talk about this with than Heather Eyrich, who's a part of the Gray Sky team. And this is really in your wheelhouse. This is really kind of what you do on a day in, day out.
We don't want one-off clients. We want forever clients.
100% true.
You know, most video projects don't fall short because of budget or creative. They fall short because of how the relationship is set up. Yes. So let's talk about the different ways a relationship could be set up, but what the most ideal relationship setup is, what we ultimately try to get with our clients.
Yeah. So it's not uncommon for that initial conversation with a client to feel very much like an order taker. They've come to you, they're self-diagnosed, they're self-prescribed, they know exactly what they need, and they want you to tell them what it costs. So you're a vendor, you're a production vendor, and they're coming to you and possibly others. But the way we massage that into a relationship going forward and a repeat client is asking questions. Ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, and then ask more questions. And
seems to be a reoccurring theme for us.
It is because, you know, understanding what that video is and where it finds success and how they can use it. There's so many things that you'll learn and discover in asking those questions. And it's in asking those questions, you find that moment, and it's called the flip. Industry term, can make it up.
Well, no, it's a good term because, listen, they want to know what something's going to cost, right? I mean, that's a concern, you know.
That's always the number one.
And we do
question,
get that,
right?
and we're not trying to avoid that question. But to your point, there's so many questions that go into, you know, how is this video going to look and feel? Where is it going to live? It's not just an order taker, because I hate to say it this way, a lot of times they really don't know what goes into production.
Right.
We've had some clients who do understand
want.
it and go, I have a budget, this is what we want to do, but that's usually when they're a partner,
Right.
not so much out of the gate. So, you know, that first call, to your point.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times they'll call and say, I want an overview video, and what does that cost? And you're like, well, what does your business do? Who's going to be on camera? And all of these questions, because I think then drilling that down helps you understand a little bit more of the culture and really what it is. Because a lot of times what they want, if they say they want an overview, they don't. They actually want like a commercial or a brand video or a culture video or onboarding.
100%.
It goes a million different ways.
Yeah, and that's it. You're asking those questions to uncover all of those possibilities. And also just so, you know, you can understand their business. And when you can't approach a creative or a solution until you really understand not only what it is that they do, but what they want to accomplish. What is the outcome of that video? And that flip, that moment where all of a sudden you have become not just a vendor, not just somebody who's going to say, oh, it costs this, one day production. It's that expert practitioner, that person that brings thought, and that thought ultimately translates into value.
And I think that's a great thought process there, you know, pro tip, because if you just get that a price, alarm should be going off that they didn't ask a lot of questions, because it's like, I don't even know how you can come up with a number then if you don't know a lot of details into what they would want to do.
Do you hear that a lot? I got this price from this company, this price from this company. Why are you asking me so many questions? Why can't you just give me a price? Do you hear that a lot?
We do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do, that you kind of they rock back like, are you just going to ask me a million questions? Do you have any answers? And it's like, I have so many, but before I can give you any of my expertise, you're going to arrive at different things and acknowledge different things and different needs along the way, because we're talking this through, because you're answering these questions. And so often, I will hang up with or go to round up a call with somebody and they'll say, well, I already know I'm working with you because no one else had this amount of questions. No one else bothered. They quickly told me what a day is or what it could look like, but no one explored it with me. And now I have a much better idea of what I think, where this could go, where this should go, that kind of thing.
And listen, there could be a time and place where there's a talking head and whatever, and it could be a very transactional kind of thing. Okay, wait, it's a half day, it's this, that. Yeah, I can get your number real quick. Sometimes they may not look to want to be pushed from a vendor to a partner. But I think what we're talking about here is more times than not, the opportunity is there that this isn't just I can't get you a number in 3 minutes of what you just told me. And the reason for that also reflects the work at the end of the day, right? It's not just let's get to a number. And something we pride ourselves on this topic as a whole too is there's no secret charges at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. We want to understand what we're doing from the beginning, what it takes to go in there. So I think a lot of times companies do that. They lowball it or they give a number. And I love to know how that experience went.
And then they figure it out.
Yeah. They figure it out and how much more they're going to charge along the way because they didn't ask these questions and are asking now, oh, you want that? Well, that's going to cost more.
Right.
So I think for us, it's right up front. Let's learn as much as we possibly can.
Because it's not just a happy accident when clients become partners. It's always the goal for them to become partners. And in asking those questions and in a way demonstrating that we're on their side and we're rooting for them and we want the best possible outcome for them. I think that, it's kind of a lonely island for people sometimes when they're the one tasked with finding a video partner. Yeah. And I think, no matter how experienced they are when they come to us, they still want to explore a creative idea together. Mm-hmm. And, they're their brand experts. They are their company experts. They have a tremendous expertise and we're the production experts. So when you bring those two things together and you don't let one fight the other, it's not about, execute it this way. Can it be done? Sure. But is it the best way? Is it the best way towards the best piece of creative? And I would challenge that it's not.
And this plays into your role. I mean, you're not just there to sell a production. You're
not just the order taker.
You're strategizing, you're translating their world to us and our world to them, right? And then you're also creative. You're on that initial call.
You're speaking multiple languages.
That you have to deal with from the beginning of that. And it's super important, and I think it's super important that a company like ours has someone like yourself, because I don't think a lot of production companies do. I think a lot of them have just a director or a producer and just want to get to set and get that dollar. But again, this is a journey as far as we're looking at it, and it should be a journey. And it comes into, we've talked about, which we'll talk about a little bit too, ecosystems of content, understanding everything that we could possibly do on set to get the most out of their spend, right? So
I love that you said translator because those are just some of the best moments when you're like, you're asking all these questions and you're going on and they're, you hit that moment where they just start to go and you're like, all right, now you're sharing. Now you might be oversharing. Keep going, And then, you're able to kind of sum it back up and be like, so now what I'm hearing, it sounds like where we're arriving at is maybe a different space. Maybe it's here. And they're like, yes. And it's like, I didn't push them there. I just led with questions and that's where we arrived. And now we're at a better place to come at it as a partner and say, here's how we support that idea and here's how we, what the approach should look like.
I mean, I don't know how we could put any type of video together for somebody if we don't fully understand who the client is, what their brand is, what their messaging is. I'm not going to throw anybody else under the bus. I just don't understand how other companies might be able to do that if they don't fully understand the client.
A lot of people out there
you're letting
hustling.
The client lead, and the client needs help sometimes. They've never done it before, or even if they're seasoned pros, they've never worked with us before.
Right.
So I think there are like 5 rules we see in every great client partnership, right? And I think when those are in place, the work gets better across the board. So let's talk about the first rule. And I think it's bringing production in before you have it all figured out.
Right.
So what does that look like to you?
So it's great when somebody comes in and has an idea and you can say, okay, how invested are we here? How locked in? How, where is this in your approval process on your side? Because we do think that there's opportunities here to come in and shape this. And have you thought of this? And where, I understand you've suggested this, but what about this? And how, what if we took this from the office space into someone's living room? And does that help us tell the story better? Oh gosh, I love that. I love that. That makes it personal. Okay. These are small things that those early discovery conversations, if they're open to allowing us into the creative and what the creative should be, we can really elevate it.
But understanding the brand, and also their audience, like you said, pulling it out of the office and into a living room, it may then better resonate with who's actually watching it in the end. And I think a lot of times that's not always necessarily the main focus. Okay, yes, maybe they have a product they're trying to sell, so they do understand demographically, but not actually who's sitting down and watching.
I think there's an also fear if they do have a budget in mind to share that, because I think we're there to get the most out of their budget. That's why we 9 times out of 10 ask, what's your budget, right? But okay, we may have to work up to the budget with them, but sometimes I feel like there's this hesitancy game going back and forth, right? That it's like, well, I don't want to give you my budget, but we want to get the most out of your budget.
Exactly.
We're not there to try to be like, oh, okay, and we sometimes even say you don't even need that much to do this idea, right? So it's not like if you have it, we're going to spend it all the time, but it's also, we're here to maximize that budget.
Exactly.
We may not need to spend it all, but if you have it, let us spend it all and give you more.
Exactly.
Well, which we could talk about, which is another rule kind of coming up. But I think the second rule we want to talk about is just to share more than what you want. Share what success looks like, right? So clarity, talking about being clear on what the vision is of what they're trying to do.
Right.
And what their goal is. Like if they want, I hate to use this term, but go viral, that's a specific type of thing. If they want to encourage people to, foot traffic into a specific location, that's another thing. Like understanding not just what they think they want, but what to them, if it was successful, would look like.
Right. And for us to come in and understand that, we have 25 years experience. We have, it's not to say, oh, we've been there, done that, or we've done this for every other person in your same industry. But there are things that work, and we know that. And if you share with us, I really need this to help me retain my employees.
Right. Or get new employee, recruit or something.
I need to recruit. This has to generate, okay, well, then you have to be on certain platforms. Well, then you have to, make sure that you're visible in these spaces. And not that we place media, but we direct it, we steer it, we massage the creative so that it's working in those platforms.
We understand the nature of each of those platforms and what works best on those platforms. We may not fully know what their plan is for, like you said, for publication, but yeah, if you want to create Instagram Reels, that's a different type of thing.
And this is also where the partner comes in. You may say, we want to do a recruitment video. We want our CEO to be a talking head. I'm like, that's not maybe we should talk to other people that work there and do a more energetic video. Like, let us help. Yes, it's nice that they have an idea sometimes, but I hate to say it, sometimes the idea may not be the right fit for then the type of video what the purpose of the video may be. So by sharing, it's like we may be able to help mold or craft your idea or even pivot it a bit to saying, we've done these before. Nobody's going to connect with a talking head and want to work there. Let's show your space. Let's show the fun.
Exactly.
And
if you want to create an onboarding video and encourage young, fun, new professionals to come to your business, I don't know if your CEO talking directly to them is the best option. I don't know if they're gonna connect with that. Maybe we show off this fun, amazing culture that you're talking about instead.
Yeah, they've already read it in the job description. Now let's show them what it looks like. And that's the storytelling that we bring that they may not. Sometimes they're so focused on messaging and this is the script and this tells what the viewer, what I want them to learn. But we can tell that in a story and it's so much more memorable, so much more impactful, such a better takeaway, and it's going to perform better.
Yeah, it can be not just black and white with what their thoughts are. It can be shades of gray. Let's go out think a little bit outside the box. And yes, there's legal things that you need to specifically say because there's certain requirements, but how do we do that in a more lighthearted way? Right. In a more attention-grabbing way.
And this is also from that gate too. Like this is why it's not just a vendor from the gate. How much does this cost? well, I don't know what we're doing.
Right.
You could also say I want a talking head, but that may not be the best for this, right? So again,
Why do you want to talk?
why do you talk, understanding this stuff? And again, you're going down right away into partnership conversations versus vendor order taker conversations. And yeah, we've dealt with certain agencies or marketing directors who may have a very clear vision, and that's rare, but it's
happens,
also
though.
welcomed, like, hey, we're here to execute now. You got it. Let's go, But I think a lot of times we are trying to craft these ideas, or someone was told by someone else that we need a video and they go make that call. And how much does it cost? It's like, it's a little too premature to just pounce on giving a number without understanding what we're doing.
Or I guess, sometimes it is just what they want. How do you deal with that? If all I want is a number, do you try to give them a range? Do you try to give them examples of things we've done in the past that kind of sound like what they're trying to do?
Yeah, all of those things. Very much it's a range.
Yeah.
It's a here's typically about what fits into a day if we were in one location, if we were in a sound studio, if we did this or that. But I really shy away from it. And I know, it's funny because the biggest pushback I get isn't from the highest level of decision maker. It's the lower level decision makers because they've been tasked and they don't want to feel embarrassed going back with anything less than what they've been asked for. But as genuinely as I can, I love people, and I was in, we all started out. So, you just want to have those conversations that say, let's talk this through and go back with all of these smart questions, and it's going to be fine. Like, if we can answer all these smart questions, I promise you we're going to arrive at a number that works for you and a place that works. But I also really do press for a budget.
Yeah.
It's so important. So help me know where we need to be so that the concepts that we come back to you with, the creative that we concept for you, is still going to work. It's just going to work on a scale that you can afford.
Yeah.
And I think even if you are just giving them a range, though, you're showcasing a ballpark. You're showcasing the things that go into what created that range too. So you're already crossing into partnership territory.
Right.
And I think that goes into the third rule here is that they need to trust the process and allow themselves to be led. And that's not always the easiest thing. I get somebody maybe just tasked with getting a number, but this is a process.
Yeah.
What we do is a process. And, we hear a lot of times, you're the experts, right? You're the experts.
Yep.
And that's what we're ultimately trying to build up to.
We're the experts in video production,
Right.
but they're the experts.
Right.
Sure, but that's where the partnership then comes in,
You
right?
want that to be, yeah.
What is your role when it comes to that, when it's trying to get them to trust the process?
That it's not passive. It's an active conversation. It's always an active conversation. And that is where you guide each other. As you just said, it's the client's the expert on their side. We're the expert on our side. And just constantly having those conversations that marry those two things are going to help you to arrive at the best outcome.
Creating a power couple.
Yeah, you really are.
And I think when you can confidently show that we are the experts on the other side, then a trust is beginning to be formed, right? And that does start early on, obviously, a lot of times from that first phone call, that first time you may meet or talk to somebody. But it's super important that they understand we have their best interest in mind, and we're asking these questions not just for fun.
Right.
This is everything that goes into creating what we do.
Have you ever encountered anybody overwhelmed with the questions that you've asked?
Yes. Yeah, the junior people, get really like, I don't know. And it's like, but talking that through with anyone at any level in marketing, they get it. They understand why you're asking. These aren't crazy questions. They're shaping what the content could be, should be, and you're just kind of, you're finding your way to what that answer is. So they're potentially overwhelmed because they don't know how their boss would answer it, but it doesn't mean, they understand.
And this is big stuff, the partnership stuff, because, I always say anybody can make anything look good, but this is all that stuff done before you get to set, right? So coming up with strategy, coming up with creative, coming up with everything we do in pre-production, that is more of what a partnership is, versus a vendor coming on, just setting a couple lights and cameras up and saying, okay, go.
Yeah.
It's a big difference. It's a big difference.
I think also, from the partnership side, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No?
I think that also coming in as experts and leading the charge helps them to understand that like we're taking the load off their shoulders a bit. Video can seem overwhelming if they're, like you said, if you're dealing with junior people, or even just like if they're overwhelmed, even if they're at the higher level of decision making, if they're overwhelmed because they're tasked with other things or maintaining an entire campaign and video is one component. Us coming in as a partner takes a lot of the heavy lift off of their shoulders, and they can trust that it's still getting done the way that they would want to do it.
Right. We've always been super heavy in pre-production. So I think, the way that we set ourselves up for success on the front end of a project, clients are already feeling like, okay, they know what they're doing, it's going to be fine, but they still don't really understand what happens when they get here, what set day looks like if they haven't done it before. So there's conversations to be had there too. Hey guys, here's everything you possibly need.
That's what it continues now on production, and then it carries through even to post-production.
Carries right through,
But we're sensitive to that too. And I know a lot of, some of the best shoots are with actors and the whole shebang, but some of them are a little bit more small and intimate. And we are a lot of times dealing with non-talent actors, people who work at the company, and they're super nervous and they've never memorized anything before. If we're doing like a sketch, something scripted, or even, if they're reading from a teleprompter. And sharing that information with us ahead of time in pre-production allows us to, we'll have pre-pro calls where we'll all get on a Zoom and introduce all the you're on the call, I'm on the call, Mark's on the call. We talk about how the day will go, what to expect. We'll talk about the people that they'll meet and just the general vibe of this. And I think that goes a long way too, that we're just like, hey, buddy.
Well, you're kind of jumping
It's
to
okay.
rule 5 here. We'll skip rule 4, which we'll come back to. But you're
Sorry.
talking about great work comes from great communication, right? And I think when you're on set communicating what's going on, we also want to hear their voice. If they don't like something or they want to switch something.
Or they're apprehensive about how something may come across.
It's easy to throw people off. I mean, if somebody doesn't know where to park when they come to set and they show up frazzled and completely out of sorts, and you have to take the time to walk them down and calm everybody, that's our mistake. That's a communication. They should have so much information. Everything should be buttoned up, whether they read it.
Well, listen, but also
we can laugh about a lot of
But
those.
again, you have yourself. Typically on
Yep.
set, we have a production manager. We are putting other contingencies in place for that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Sure.
Because it's a big deal what we're doing, right?
Yep.
And we want them to be focused on it all, throughout the entire process, not just in pre-production, and it's exciting when you walk into a set and you see a lot of stuff. And, but there's also, as that partner, again, you're guiding them through, and sometimes they may have a suggestion that, I won't say can't get done, but, well, if we do that this is going to derail this way. You're kind of constantly guiding as that. Again, that's the difference between a partner and vendor, because I've been on other shoots that haven't been run by us, and I've seen that be great, and I've seen it fail.
Right.
Nobody's there to sit with client, and guide them through something, and then all of a sudden bickering even starts between client and producer or director, and you're like, what is going on right now?
Yeah, that's not
To
a good
have
environment.
somebody communicating with the client right there, I think is so valuable, and I've always pushed for it, because the client's sitting there and they're watching the frame, right? And that's what we told them. The frame is what you get. And they're watching and they're like, this is too wide. I don't want it this wide. This isn't what I asked for. Why are we so wide? And it's like, I'm there to say, we're wide because we know we want to cut in. And this is really high resolution. And we're going to be able to cut in to get exactly the framing that we talked about, which is pretty much, here, and you're showing them on the monitor. And then all those ISOs and the deeper push-ins, because then we're not repeating ourselves. We've got more time in our day to give you other content.
It needs to be explained.
And that needs to be explained.
And that's
Yep.
stuff I could always stop and explain or Dana, because we're trying to make the day. We're trying to move it forward. We don't expect them to understand everything from production
Nope.
from A to Z. You do the whole take and, no, we're going to use pieces of this take.
Right.
Or it's really just for the beginning or really for the middle, but we want to get them going. It's just tricks that we do to get the best performance out of people, but it does need to be explained.
Yeah, and I think storyboards help with that to give
Sure.
a general idea of the flow of visuals,
Yeah.
in a spot. But I also know that, trying to get ahead of that question, we're set up and say, okay, just so you know, we're going to film this in a wide, we're going to film this in two mediums, and we're going to do ISOs on each person, we're going to do, and then X, Y, and Z, and how we're going to move through the day. Just giving them a heads up. They may forget and still ask, but at least it's been explained once, and going in with the knowledge that they may be confused, that maybe they don't understand. We also try to wait until like at least the third take before we accept any notes.
Right.
Because
Get it to the point.
get it to the point where
We're
we as a production company are happy with the performance based on all the conversations we've had before. And then I'll come to you and be like, so what do they think? Are we good?
Where are we at?
Yeah, again, it comes out, great work comes from great communication, and which is rule 5.
Right.
We skipped rule 4, so we're going to circle back. And then
They're
we have
not hard,
another
fast rules.
we have another whole episode on this, but it's understanding, again, the partnership versus the vendor. We may be able to get more content out of one shoot. It's
Yeah.
a kind of shooting content for the ecosystem, and there's a whole other episode on that. We'll touch on it lightly here. It's understanding how things are going to be delivered, again, formats and all that. But it's like, if we're brought in as a partner, we may be able to get a couple videos out of one shoot, one budget.
Value add.
Right? Or, hey, if you thought about this, we're here. We add a little bit more, we can do X, Y, and Z. So talk to me about that shooting for the ecosystem, content for the ecosystem. Yeah. But again, vendor versus partner.
Exactly. So, again, back to the questions, but you've now asked so many questions that you understand their business. That's the goal. So you understand their business, you understand what their desired outcomes are, and hopefully you're understanding where their content currently lies. So that's where you're able to say, hey, I know you typically need some LinkedIn content. How about we look at this for this? We're already in the location. We already have our actor, or we already have your president of your company whose time is extremely valuable here. How about we get some of this for social? How about, what else is happening in other departments? Where are the other needs? And you're just opening that up for all these conversations and making sure that while you're in your day, not adding another shoot day, but in the day that you already have, how can you make the most amount of deliverables? How can you pull all these pieces of content? And, is that 6 seconds? Is that a 30-second cut down? It can run the gamut, right. But it gives you the opportunity, because you're strategizing and you're having those conversations and you're thinking of it early on, you're able to offer so much more.
Understanding what the original ask is, understanding if it's part of a campaign and what other pieces surround that campaign. Do you need web content? Do you need social content? Do you need ads? Do you need things for streaming? Yeah, there's so many additional things that we can capture on the same day without much extra work.
Right. And our clients are smart people. They're constantly coming up with all of these exciting opportunities. We just did all the United in-flight ads. That was, again, those become value ads. Those become, how do we get 2 of those? How do we, put our camera down in one spot and make that work for 10 pieces of content, as opposed to, pushing that into a different day or a different time or a different budget, when we can try and make things work in a day.
Yeah, I think strong partnerships create better ideas. I think better ideas lead to better execution, and better execution leads to stronger results. So that's what we're doing. It's results driven. We want them to get the results they are desiring with the content that we're creating, right? And I think that's the difference right there between partnerships and vendors. I don't know, vendors, they do it, they get paid, see you later kind of thing. And partnerships it's just a bigger investment in each other.
Right.
But
our goal is the same goal as theirs. It's not, we just want to book this job and make money. It's, we want them to succeed.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd say follow these 5 rules and, they'll be hopefully,
Do you want to recap the rules?
Oh, you should recap the rules.
So rule 1, bring in production before you have it all figured out, so we can help you figure it out. Rule number 2, share beyond what you think you want, but what success looks like to you, not you, but to the client. Rule 3, trust the process. Let us help you. Let us lead you toward the goal and the success that you want. 4, think about the ecosystem. Think about the additional content, social content, or not just social, but content. And then 5, communicate. Great communication. Good work comes from good communication.
The best projects are the ones where trust and collaboration, are built early. And that's what we got going on.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. And as always, I'm going to say, let's call cut. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Heather.